This preview is brought to you by Dollar Shave Club. So I had a chance, did not get my hands on, to see the game that was announced at E3 last year from Sony, The Order 1886. Obviously, it was a new IP, which is always a great thing to see from any publisher, but it caused that typical controversy we see when we see a trailer. It's like, well, that can't be how the game looks. The game looks really good. It was an incredibly short demo, and I don't think they did the game nor themselves any favor by having something that truncated. I think some short instances from various parts of the game may have given a better sense of how it plays, because it looks very much like a third-person shooter. It has a cover system. I'll get into that in a second, but what is undeniable about this game is how striking the visuals are. As I talked to Rue from Ready at Dawn in my interview with him, it really struck me as like an oil painting. The movie, I don't want to damn The Order by saying this, that it really recalled was Stanley Kubrick's Barry Lyndon, which was shot by actual candlelight and not artificial light, and it really took on this interesting palette of a painting, something with just that kind of softness and that richness. There was a sense of atmosphere around it that really was unlike any game I had ever seen, and it was just visually compelling to look at. In terms of also the visuals and how that lent to sort of the design and the look of the level, it was taking place in Whitechapel. And as someone who actually lived in that part of East London back in the early 90s, it really captured the claustrophobic quality. But then by obviously putting it into the 19th century, I'm really glad you can't smell video games, because this just seemed like a filthy, horrible place, and one that definitely had a large touch of mystery. Now, the game, in terms of its story, is more interesting than I originally thought. You're part of the Order, and 3 of the characters of this 4-man group are named after Knights of the Round Table. Galahad, there's Parsifal, and there's a third guy, I can't remember his name. Anyhow, you are kind of, I would say, on the bad side. You're kind of working for the English government, and in this very short demo, you're trying to put down an uprising by the thoroughly downtrodden people that are in the East End of London. Let's just say that was not the best place to be living at any point of the 19th century. In terms of story and tone, that was interesting to me because I was so worried that this game was going to be just kind of a, cut and paste of so many other action games out there. At least when it comes to story, there seems to be something very new and very different that is happening. And I have talked to them in the interview about how sort of supernatural and fantastical it gets. And it was interesting how Rue kind of pulled back on fantastical, but assured me there was a supernatural component to it as well. Now, the gameplay. There was shooting. The weapons are very interesting because they're these strange kind of, hybrid constructs of things that really didn't exist, but they assure us that the components of it did exist during the 19th century. But once the combat started, it seemed rather familiar. It was an incredibly short demo, so I would like to think that, things will get more sophisticated, but probably it was quite reminiscent of things that you would see in an Uncharted game. One moment that was interesting is, I don't want to call it a quick time event because that's become such a dirty word, but there was a moment where melee combat happened, and it was, through button prompts, but it was button prompts that were more like David Cage games, where various icons showed up depending upon where you're putting the camera, and they told us, they did not show us, that it's not a just straight pass-fail state, that if you do something wrong or you hit or you miss the button prompt, it will then move on to another stage that will then eventually end in either a failure or a success. I gotta say, I don't know if I'm excited or not. I cannot wait to see more about this game, because something I thought that was gonna be a little more rudimentary is definitely, there's a lot of creativity going on in terms of the gameplay. If the gameplay can match that creativity, we may have a really interesting new franchise on our hands. All right, let's take a moment and thank our sponsor, Dollar Shave Club. Look, buying razors sucks. You have to go to the store, you have to shell out $20, you have to go into the plastic fortress thingy to pull it out, and then you have to somehow tear open all that packaging. It's not fun. Fortunately, there's a company that's doing away with all that ridiculousness. It's called Dollar Shave Club, and it couldn't be simpler. For a few bucks a month, Dollar Shave Club ships amazing razors and other bathroom stuff right to your door. Their blades are just as good as the big shave companies at a fraction of the price. They've also got Dr. Carver's Easy Shave Butter to make your shave even more buttery smooth. And you gotta try One Wipe Charlie's, their new peppermint-infused butt wipes for men. They tingle in a good way. Shave time, shave money. Join now at dollarshaveclub.com/Rev3Games.